Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for attending our brown bag lunch event today. We are joining you both here in person and for those who are on Zoom with us today. We also want to thank Osceola Township for being our host again. Typically, we would go around and do introductions at this point in time, but because we're kind of in a hybrid setting and this is our first hybrid event, we want to make sure that everything's working well. So we're going to skip introductions. Many of you know, and for those of you who do not know, the county is currently pursuing an application for an urban night sky place. And as a result of that application process, part of our procedure is to build a good rapport of public outreach and education. So today's event is pursuant not only to that, but also because this is a topic that has a lot of important developmental what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah. What was it again?
Connotations.
Yes, connotations. So what I'm going to do is I want to introduce our speaker, and then we're going to turn the presentation over to Robert. But our speaker today is Robert Parrish. Robert is from Edwardsburg, Michigan. He is a graduate of Western Michigan University, and he is the current vice president of the Cass County Parks and Recreation Board. He's also a member of the Michiana Astronomical Society, as well as the Kalamazoo Astronomical Society. He has been a delegate to the International Dark Sky Association for the past 5 years and is very active in getting the Dr. Lawless Park in Cass County recognized as both an international dark sky park and a Michigan dark sky preserve. So we have been working with Robert for a few years now, and we are looking forward to his presentation. So we're going to turn the presentation over to Robert. Be patient as we migrate this over to him, and we thank you again for attending. There you go.
Share the screen.
Yep.
Okay. We're going to go back to the beginning here, so bear with me. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Robert Parrish, and I represent Dr. Lawless International Dark Sky Park and Michigan Dark Sky Preserve. And a lot of people ask about our logo, and that logo is supposed to represent me on the left as a young boy looking at the stars with my dad, Andrew Parrish, who loved to share the stars with me. He learned a lot about it in the Navy, and when he got out, he taught me a lot about the night sky. And the constellation that you see in the night sky is Ophiuchus, and that's a shout out to Dr. Lawless himself, who is the namesake for the park. And Ophiuchus has been known as sort of the celestial medicine man of the sky. So once again, my name is Robert Parrish. This is pretty much everything Scott went over with. I'm a VP of the Cass County Parks and Recreation Department. I'm very active in both the Michiana and Kalamazoo Astronomical Society. I'm an advocate to the International Dark Sky Association. I received my master's and bachelor's from Western Michigan University, where every day is a darn good day to be a Western Michigan Bronco. And I'm also a self-proclaimed nerd and amateur astrophotographer. And if you don't believe I'm a nerd, you can ask my wife back here in the audience. She will agree 100%. And it all started in 1963 when I was lucky enough when Santa Claus brought me a telescope. It was a cheap telescope. That's my father behind me. And we spent many a night outside fending off the mosquitoes and looking at the stars, and that got me started. Since that time, I've been able to move up to a little bit in my equipment. This is a 9¼ inch Schmidt Cassegrain telescope. It's fully robotic. It's also known as a catadioptic scope, or CAT for short. It's great for looking at the stars. And I also own another cat, which is Rosie the cat. And she's absolutely worthless for looking at the stars, but she's a really good kitty. And once again, as my wife will attest to, I'm definitely her human. There's no doubt about that. But when you have the right equipment and you have dark skies, like you do at Lawless Park, you can take some pretty nice pictures. These pictures I took at the park, starting with the Orion Nebula in the center, and then to the top and to the left is the Running Man Nebula. This is the Horsehead Nebula and the Flame Nebula. The Pleiades, which is also known as the Seven Sisters. The Eastern Veil Nebula. And this is the Lagoon and the Trifid Nebula. This was taken a couple months ago, I think. All taken at Lawless Park. But we're here to talk about light pollution. And the main points that we want to cover is, what is light pollution? How do we mitigate it? Outdoor lighting is related to crime. And how do we sell the idea of dark skies? And through this presentation, there'll be several very short videos. And this first one, I hope, will act as a primer to introduce you to the basics of light pollution.
The night sky has been a feature of human existence for 50,000 years. Every historical figure that you can think of could see the sky. And we together, collectively, without particularly meaning to, have painted over the sky with kind of an orange haze, and we can't see the stars very well anymore. Up until 100 years ago, everyone who could see it and appreciate it. So we've lost a lot. Thousands of years ago, potters discovered that if you heat something up hot enough, it turns red. If you keep heating it up, it gradually progresses to be more and more blue. So a guy named Kelvin figured out a way to measure the temperature of light by looking at the spectrum. The hotter it is, the bluer the peak of those colors is. The warmer light doesn't create as much light pollution as the bluer light. The bluer light is stronger, shorter wavelength, so it penetrates more. The blue light also regulates something in the back of your brain called the pineal gland, which regulates your circadian rhythm. Increasingly, we're seeing those high temperature lights, and it's telling your body to wake up, and it's one of the reasons people are having trouble sleeping. The American Medical Association has warned about these high temperature lights, and they say that this light is causing us to not sleep as well, and not sleeping as well causes all manner of other problems. The single biggest contributor to light pollution is streetlights. There are good streetlights and bad streetlights. The good ones shine the light down on the street. This is something that people need to inform their politicians about, because the politicians don't necessarily know. A lot of people don't like too much light, and they need to know that, yes, indeed, there's lots of people like this who don't like this light, and you can do something about it. This is a fight that's still going on. The outcome is far from clear. It may not be that we'll be able to set up a telescope in Times Square and see anything, but if we can all work together, you might not have to drive as far from Times Square to see something as you do now. It might give our children and grandchildren a chance of seeing the Milky Way and getting to know the sky a little bit, because it's so important to know that, because it kind of is a reminder of our place in the universe. That as big as we are, there's something far, far bigger than us.
Studios, web exclusive, made for mobile.
Okay, the one thing I really want you to remember from that video is where he talked about Kelvin. And a lot of people think that when things get redder, they actually get hotter. But actually, when they turn more blue is when things get even hotter yet. And blue wavelengths are very short wavelengths. They're very powerful. And even if you have a fully shielded, fully approved dark sky fixture, if you're using a color temperature in the lamp itself that is way over to the blue side of the spectrum, those blue light wavelengths have the ability to scatter and defeat the purpose of a fully shielded street light. So remember that. So what is light pollution? I like to bring it down into 3 categories: light trespass, sky glow, and over illumination. Here's a good caricature of what light pollution or light trespass is. It's light that crosses property lines where it's not wanted or needed. As you can see on the left, the homeowner thinks he's lighting up his property and probably doing his neighbor a favor by lighting up his property too. But unfortunately, that guy can't sleep, and he probably wants to get out his Red Ryder BB gun and shoot out the light. But if you choose the right lighting fixture, you can keep the light on your property. Another one is sky glow. This picture was taken about 5 miles south of South Bend, Indiana, looking north. And if you didn't know better, you would think maybe the city was on fire. But sky glow is light that escapes fixtures and goes horizontally, or excuse me, vertically up into the sky and reflects off particles in the sky, such as dust, pollution, water vapor droplets, and it's reflected back. And that's why even if you're in a dark sky spot around here, if you look towards the major cities, you'll see that glow, and that's what they call the sky glow. And over illumination, which is too many lights. It creates a glare, wastes energy, and obstructs the view of the night sky. This looks like a pretty decent apartment complex or condo. It has outdoor patios and balconies where you can sit out at night, obviously when the snow's not on the ground, and bask under the glow of man-made light. Now, I'm not saying that you should get rid of all lights outside at night because people need to see where they're going. But if you use intelligent lighting, you can keep that light from going up in the sky. You can still see where you're going, and you can still save the view of a beautiful night sky. So those are the 3 categories that I break light pollution into. But how do we fight light pollution? You need to know what good lighting is, determine if you're guilty of poor lighting choices, because it all begins at home. It's hard to preach to somebody else about bad lighting when you have it in your own house. If so, make intelligent lighting outdoor changes. And what are good lighting practices? Now, I have another video coming up, which might be the corniest video you've ever seen in your life. It's short and to the point, but I think it really drives some good points home.
If you saw our other videos, you learned how night lighting and light pollution are impacting animals and actually ruining our views of the night sky.
Yeah, but seriously, we need lights at nighttime because they help keep us safe, right?
Well, sort of. Actually, one of the major problems is ineffective lighting. Take this one, for example. It was designed to look pretty good in a kind of 70s groovy style during the daytime. But what happens at night? Whoa! All right, it's night, but it's also raining. Oh, sure. Okay. Well, as you can see, the light is now on, and its purpose is one thing and one thing only: to illuminate the ground so I can see where I'm going. Unfortunately, you can see that only about 50% of that light is actually doing that. 10% is shining right into your eyes, and the other 40% is just going straight into the night sky. And unless we're looking to light up leaves and the undersides of birds' bellies, that's just totally wasted light.
I know. Let's talk about glare and safety for a moment.
Let's use this light here as an example. This light shines directly into our eyes. Its glare causes our pupils to contract, blinding us to the darkness.
Wow, the glare is really bad.
Yeah, it's like car headlights blinding you at night. But in this case, we can fix it. So if we shield this light so that all of the light is pointing on the ground,
Wow, that's a lot better.
our eyes relax a little bit, our pupils start to dilate, and we can see everything in the dark, including the scary looking guy who's been hiding out in the shadows this whole time.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea he was hiding there. So why do we have these style lights in our park? Well, it's the same reason you've got them in your towns and your cities, and that's because nobody thought about it when they were designing it. But we're thinking about it now, and we're striving to make changes to help fix our lighting and bring back our dark nights.
Oh, have you heard of the International Dark Sky Association? They're an organization dedicated to protecting the night sky. We plan on working with them to fix our lights. If we all work together, the savings are huge. Since nearly half of all lights in the U.S. point upwards, we waste an estimated $3 billion of electricity each year.
Saving money, protecting wildlife, and bringing back the Milky Way, that's what I call a win-win-win situation.
So what are we waiting for?
So what are we waiting for?
No, you're the one who's waiting.
Who's waiting here?
I'm not waiting.
Let's go!
And since then, that park has received its International Dark Sky Park status, so that's a good thing. Any questions? If you have any questions as we're moving along, please ask them. Are we good right now? Okay, so what we want to do, as you saw in that video, is you want to use fully shielded light fixtures, and that's because it takes all the light and focuses it down on the ground. That's where you wanted it in the first place. And because of that, you can get away with using a less powerful bulb because you don't have that light going out to the sides or up in the sky. So you only use light where needed. Consider timers or motion detectors, but what about the bulbs? LED lighting is the most energy efficient, but you should always choose lights that are 3000 Kelvin or less. And actually, I would say personally, you should go to 2700 K or less. And that's because you're trying to eliminate those blue wavelengths that I spoke about earlier. Because if you have a lot of blue lighting emanating from the bulb, it'll defeat the purpose of a fully shielded light. Blue rich lights defeat fully shielded fixtures, and according to the AMA, blue rich lights are bad for your health. And if you don't believe me, maybe you'll believe the president of the American Medical Association.
As night falls on the tri-state, a new brighter, whiter light is beginning to shine. Light-emitting diodes, or LEDs, are at the center of these new street lights. The LEDs produce more light using half the electricity of those old familiar high-pressure sodium lights. The lower-cost bright light combo is why LEDs are now popping up on our roads and streets, byways and highways, even in a tunnel many of you drive through. According to the Ohio Department of Transportation, approximately 1,100 LEDs now make up the 46,000 streetlights on state roads and highways. But the nation's largest group of physicians, the American Medical Association, is now warning about a potential darker side to these LED lights. It's not a good thing, bottom line, right? That's correct. AMA President Dr. Andrew Gurman agreed to talk with me from Altoona, Pennsylvania. Dr. Gurman believes the light emitted by these diodes can be downright hazardous. According to this official AMA report, many of the new streetlights could be considered unshielded LED lighting, which could be creating a road hazard. Does that worry you just from the ability to drive your car in and out of these lights at night? Well, yes, it does. Dr. Gurman and the AMA say the potential hazard on the roads is caused by both the brightness and color of the new LED lights. Most of the LED street lights emit 4,000 Kelvin or 4,000 K.
Now, the 4,000 K lights are the ones that you've seen on some car headlights coming at you.
And just like that car coming at you, the AMA report states, the same amount of light overhead can be very blue and very blinding.
They are about 29% blue light, which you can't see, but that light rattles around inside your eyeballs, particularly as you get older. And that blue light can be very harmful. It causes glare.
The AMA calls it disability glare, an impairment that the report says causes a veil of illuminance, which leads to worse vision than if the light never existed at all. In other words, in some cases with LED street lights, the AMA report states you'd be better off driving in the dark.
Those are strong words. Well, that's what's in the report.
So that's pretty interesting. Now they're even linking people who work second and third shifts who are exposed to much more light than people who stay up just during the day and sleep at nights. They're linking higher incidences of prostate cancer, breast cancer to people exposed to higher levels of light. And it's getting to be a really big thing. It's also bad for the environment because it's terrible for nocturnal animals. It makes them more of a target to their predators. I could go on and on and on. But blue lighting is bad for you. It's bad for the environment. And try to get away from it. A lot of people think that when you're going to buy a light, you look at the side of the box and it says daylight. Oh, well, that's what I want. I want to light up my property like it's daylight. But actually, that's a hindrance. It hurts your night vision. It's bad for you, bad for the environment. So when you're looking at a package to buy a new light, make sure it says on the side what the Kelvin rating is. And you want 3,000 or less, preferably 2,700 or less, because that takes away that blue lighting, which is harmful to you, even inside your house. Try to stay more towards the warmer lighting. So here's some examples of unshielded lighting to shielded and the color temperatures. And you can see as we go to the third one over from the left, that's more of a yellowish. And then you want to worry about the intensity. And a lot of municipalities make the mistake that, hey, we're saving money now by deploying all these LED lights. So let's get a more powerful light. Well, you're defeating the purpose then of a fully shielded light. Once again, you're only trying to light up where you're walking or where you're traveling. You're not trying to light up the entire neighborhood with one particular light. And you should also include the thought of trying out timing or motion detector lights. So light pollution is related to crime. How many people here believe that the more lights you have, the less crime there will be? Raise your hand. Nobody? Somebody? Okay. I've got a story to tell you after this particular video. This guy is kind of out there too, but he's actually a professor at the University of Utah, and his main study of interest is light pollution.
Gotcha. Hi, I'm the Dark Ranger. Did you see me hiding there? Probably not, because this is a bad design for lighting. What we have here are hard shadows. They're created by the fact that this light post was placed right in the middle of two trees. Now, it's not a very good situation for safety because the bad guys know the human eye can't penetrate the hard shadows. So that's where you hide and set up an ambush. And of course, the best thing is the psychology. Next to a light, people think they're safe. So they're going to have their guard down. It's a dangerous situation. It's also not very good for the trees themselves, because in fact, trees use the number of hours of continuous darkness to tell them what season of the year it is. You can kind of think of like darkness being a calendar for trees. And I would guess that these trees probably blossom a little bit too early in spring. Maybe they have to deal with a hard cold snap, and they probably hang on their leaves a little bit too late in the fall, all compromising the health of the tree, reducing its ability to grow, things like that. Now, of course, on a university campus like we are here at the University of Utah, the health of the trees is not going to be our first concern. It's mostly going to be about public safety. But this is a classic example of where it's not the amount of light or even the amount of watts, a fairly powerful fixture you see there, but it's about making smart lighting. Smart lighting outsmarts the bad guys and makes your neighborhoods or campuses a safer place to be.
I'm going to tell you about a study that was done outside London, England, several years ago by a major university. And they wanted to study whether or not extra lighting actually cut down on crime. So they picked two separate neighborhoods that demographically were almost exactly the same. And in one, they left it alone. It was going to be their control neighborhood. And in the other one, they added a ton extra lights, and they studied the crime for those two neighborhoods for over a 5-year period. And after that period, they saw that the control neighborhood, where they did not add extra lights, crime level was pretty much the same, not much of a change at all. In the other one, where all the lights were added, crime actually went up significantly, and they couldn't figure out why that would happen, because that went against all known logic at that time, that extra lights are supposed to reduce crime. So they kept looking for the answer. They couldn't come up with anything. So as a final straw, they decided to actually interview some of the criminals that were apprehended in those neighborhoods. And they said, why did you pick this neighborhood with all the extra light versus this one, which was darker? And they said, oh, we felt safer in that neighborhood. That was their answer. So it's really psychological. People look at lights and they think I'm safe, but if you're creating those hard shadows where criminals can hide, they can see you, but you can't see them. So crime and outdoor lighting, what we know is people feel safer with night lighting, but improper lighting creates hard shadows, glare that mask a criminal presence, and use intelligent lighting that minimizes shadows, glare, and consider motion sensors. I give the example across the corner from where my wife and I live. There was a gentleman there, and he had a beautiful hot rod, excuse me, inside his garage, but he has these big floodlights on the side of the garage that shines right inside our bedroom window. So Rita's had to put up some darker curtains. I spoke to him one time and asked him, I said, you know, that's a beautiful car, because I salivate like Pavlov's dog every time he brings it out. It's beautiful. And I said, but you know, I'll even spend the money and put some shades on these lights for you. And he goes, no, I'm trying to protect my car inside that garage. And I said, well, I realize that. I said, but do you stay up all night looking outside your window? He goes, no, of course not. I got to get up and go to work the next morning. I said, so how would you know somebody was there in the first place? Because all you're doing is providing a work light for them. Now, if you force the criminal to use a flashlight, or if there's motion detectors, to me, that would draw more interest or more of what's going on out there than just having the light on all the time. So proper lighting does not mean that you have to have a dark ground. Just choose intelligent lighting. As you can see, nothing vertically above the lights, but the walkway is well lighted. And we also have to worry about global warming, because all that light pollution that's going up into the air doing nothing except blocking a view of the stars, it takes a lot of energy to create that light. And I won't go into, if I can spit it out, specifics, but we can save a lot of money by switching to LED lights as long as they're 3000 K or less. In review, we know that light pollution can be segmented into 3 different cubby holes, I guess you can say: light trespass, sky glow, and over illumination. We know that fully shielded lights implementing warm color LED lights, 3000 Kelvin or less, are the best. As for crime and outdoor lighting, we know people feel safer with night lighting. Just make intelligent lighting choices. And we know that light pollution impacts personal and environmental health, wastes energy, money, and adds to global warming. If you're still not sold, visit a dark sky location. I would suggest, for some strange reason, Dr. Lawless International Dark Sky Park. And this was an actual photo taken by one of our guests. It was a 20-second photo. He just pointed it at the sky and we got that. And as you can see right here, that's the Andromeda Galaxy. So it's amazing what you can see when you get away from the lights. And the stars have a great sales pitch. That's why astrotourism is on the rise, and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation agrees. About 3 years ago, they released a paper saying that astrotourism is very much on the rise in the state of Michigan. Michigan was the first state in the union to have what they call Michigan Dark Sky Preserves. And there were 6 of them originally, and they were reserved for lands that were owned and maintained by the DNR, state DNR. But we lobbied the state legislature and had that changed. So now county parks can also be recognized as Michigan Dark Sky Preserves. So both us at Lawless Park and Headlands Park, which is the other international dark sky park, are now also Michigan Dark Sky Preserves. As a matter of fact, the MEDC, they're the ones that fund the Pure Michigan commercials that you'll see on TV with the voice of Tim Allen. They came out with a commercial selling the dark skies of Michigan a few years ago that ran on 6 national networks and over 2,000 movie screens throughout the United States. I was telling Scott earlier, at our park, we've had visitors from as far away as Missouri, Iowa, Wisconsin, Ohio, of course, Indiana, and Kentucky, and we even had visitors from England at our park. And our park guests, the number of guests that coming in has tripled in the last couple of years. You get a lot of people from the Detroit area, a lot of people from the Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo area, and the Chicago area, because we're in the southwest corner of Michigan. And people are just amazed at what they can see at the night sky. Of course, you can't see anything from the middle of downtown Detroit or Chicago. And it's really helped our park. I think it could help Lutz Park too. And I see no reason to go forward in getting Lutz Park recognized as an urban dark sky park. I think you guys would be amazed at how well it would do for the park system. So, my final slide. If people sat outside and looked at the stars each night, I bet they would live a lot differently. I'm a firm believer in that. And people ask me, what do I think of dark skies? What's my personal philosophy? And that's the fact that no matter what you believe, if you believe that we were put here on earth by an almighty creator, or if we're just here by pure happenstance, we're all made of star stuff. There's no getting around that fact. And being able to see the stars gives us a chance to look back to see our origins. That's it for me. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope I pass the audition.
Were there any questions from our in-person audience here?
Yes.
Not a question, but an observation. I'll follow up on what you said. I'm an athlete. The dark skies. We have a cottage on Lake Michigan. That's the difference. Bad news is we're south of the home call. Security lights consumers need to be on the problem because they have to address them. But still, we have guests come out and sit under the night sky and ask, just cause us that. Oh, yes, you can.
Oh, yeah. No.
You can. And you are downfall. It is amazing. And it's amazing.
You know, I've always said that the beauty of Mother Nature does not have to end when the sun goes down, because Mother Nature can be just as beautiful at night as it is during the day. But a lot of people are afraid of the dark. I think that goes back to millions of years ago when there were predatory animals out there ready to eat us. But if you go to a dark sky park, you're safe. And Rita knows, you go out to Lawless Park at night in the summertime and it's a chorus of hoot owls. It gets to the point where it drives you crazy after a while because they're hooting back and forth so much. We have bobcats out there. We have loads and loads of deer. We even have bald eagles in the park. And those are beautiful things to see during the daytime. But at nighttime, Mother Nature turns its other side towards you, and you're just amazed at how beautiful nature can be at night.
The other thing I was mentioning, for the dog, one of those months ago, so if I was starting to dog, so we walked on the beach, and as we're coming back, so it says, it's like green color stuff. And the show it put on was spectacular. Again, you can't see it.
Now, I relate a story last year. A mother came onto the park with her little boy, and I'd say he was 6 or 7 years old, and she was very polite. She said, "Do you mind if my son looks through your telescope?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So he looks at me and says, "What am I going to be looking at?" And I told him, I said, "You tell me what you see when you look through there." So I have this little stool for little kids to stand up on so they can look through the telescope. And he looks through it. "Is that Saturn?" he says. And I said, "Yep, that's the rings of Saturn. You're seeing the telescope." He looks at his mom. "Mom, I know what I want for my birthday. I want a telescope." So that was good to me because I felt like I touched somebody on that, But people are just amazed at what you can see. And a lot of people are not even interested in looking through the telescope. They just bring blankets out and stare up at the sky. It's pretty cool. And our biggest event every year is the Perseid Meteor Show. We have I'd say it's 8 to 10 acres, which is our observing field. And this last year, we had over 300 people easily out there just looking up. You don't need any special equipment. You just need a blanket to throw on your ground or a lounger or something to put up. And it was so cool. We had one meteor that started in the northeast and went all the way across the sky to the southwest. And it looked like a spark there behind it. And the whole crowd at the same time, "Ooh!" And then everybody starts clapping like they want an encore. So we can have that at Lutz Park, and whatever I can do to help that along, I'm here to help.
As a parent, I'll throw in that if you get them to be looking at these stats, we're going to see astronomy is about that. If you give the students a reason to love them or need that tool, because they will, what field of view am I running? You can calculate that. With having out, or if you take the camera versus a plus telescope, that will give you a preset field of view. And in the sky, it's not planned to fit into a convenient one camera and one scope. So you have to do the math to figure out what you're going to do. And so what a great little way of getting kids to love that.
Right.
But it works.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, we do a lot of camping and a lot of state parks. And if you stay along, we stay pretty much along Lake Michigan. Most of those parks in there are gonna have a dark sky program at night.
Right.
It's usually announced down there in their little informational area. But I was amazed at what you can see. I mean, you can't see the Milky Way from my house, but when you go out there, it's so vivid that right there in front of you. It's like looking at a movie, it's not real.
Yeah. 3 years ago, my wife and I rented a house up by Headlands. It's right on Lake Michigan. And one night I was out there with my telescope. Beautiful sunset. There were a lot of young couples there just soaking in the sunset. And as the sun started to sink below the horizon, I set up my telescope, got it all aligned, and brought Saturn into view. And I yelled out, "Who'd like to see the rings of Saturn?" Well, I was there till 3 o'clock in the morning. And everybody left and I was getting real tired. I kept noticing I was yawning. Like, it's time to pack up and take everything back, you know. So I packed everything up and it's so dark that I didn't know somebody else was out there. And out of the darkness, I heard, "Have a nice night." Well, I jumped about 6 feet up in the air. And it is so dark up there. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to see the hand in front of your face. Yes, ma'am.
Out at Lux, we put up some signs that say, sort of, I think every Saturday of the month or one Saturday of the month.
First Saturday, coincide with the IDA dark side.
Mhm. Right.
Yes, but should we, what's the best way to illuminate people's pathway out for a viewing plan?
I guess I don't follow.
Well, they're gonna have to trek into the park a little bit to our viewing plan.
Mhm.
So what's the best way to direct them when they're, coming out there at night?
What we did is we get those little landscape solar lights and we got welder's dye. Do you know what welder's dye is? When they're marking out something, they're cutting it with a torch because they have the red and blue dye. You just dip that lens into that red a little bit and it's permanent. And so it turns a solar light that's usually white into a red light. And so before an observing night, the parks director takes them out in the sunlight and charges them up, and they usually last through the night that way. And you can buy those little things for really cheap. You usually get like a pack of 10 or something like that. So yeah, I can't remember what they call that stuff, but it's welders or fabricators marking dye.
Red and green lights. The reason that not is green is it doesn't destroy the purple chemical.
Dicam, that's it,
Give you
dicam.
night vision. So that's why it's green. Most most domes are going to have red. You can buy cheap Christmas lights, and you can see that it doesn't ruin your night vision.
Yeah.
So I would suggest look at red lighting.
Okay.
Yeah.
We use that out at the observatory. They walk. It's about a couple hundred feet. They have to walk for a 2-track dirt road, and kids do pretty good. But some of our senior citizens have to take easy walking from the building. We use those red lights. We've got a little piece of wood, and they're battery operated. We have about 10 or 15 of them because they hold area. We just put them along that area, and they see those little red lights. And we have another red light chain like you were talking about. It comes out the observatory horse thing, see the handles and stuff like that. It works very nicely.
Yep.
And it's something you can do and take care of very easily without making it a major project to do something.
Right.
And that lighting is going to encourage that more coming closer than the red and green. Doesn't.
My expertise in lighting comes from watching World War II movies. Submarines, if they were servicing at night, they never turn on red lights in the submarine. So when they surfaced, they could see at night.
Right. Yeah. Yes, sir.
It's true. Right? Right. Yeah, interior red lights. I had just one other comment to make, and I know you're familiar with this because you work with the IDA, but a lot of you have probably heard about the so-called space program Starlink, where they're launching all the satellites. They're using it for internet connections and that. You look at the sky at night, you see all these bright white lights going across. What the heck is that? Those are the satellites that they're launching. We're getting thousands of these up in the nighttime sky, and some of the observatories have taken pictures showing us those tracking across the sky, and they're trying to get them to change some of the design when we get with this bright reflective light from these satellites. Now, so if you hear of anything or people involved in wanting to change that type of lighting or So it's like a darker letter, it doesn't show up in the nighttime sky. There's a second issue of how they're launched, and has to do with the inclination, where they will come up and you won't see them as pronounced in the nighttime sky. So that's another issue. I know the IDA is working on what they.
Yeah, that's all, that Starlink, I think, is owned by Elon Musk.
He's only one of them. There's
Yeah,
two
and
others coming up. There's a
Bezos
third
is trying to do it with Amazon, and it's a
Yep.
worldwide thing, and it's gonna be artificial constellations in the sky. And, yeah.
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 So all the debris and all those lights were shining out
Yeah.
there.
So yeah, they're making some progress. The biggest thing, because they're low level satellites, low altitude satellites, are not as high as the regular satellites. But they have a highly reflective exterior to help keep the instrumentation inside cool. But that's bad for night skies because that looks like an artificial star in the sky. And they do travel. I've seen them before. They travel in almost like a flock, you could say, across the sky. And a lot of people are like, what in the hell is that? Which leads me to a funny story. Do I have a few minutes?
Sure.
Behind my house in the thriving metropolis of Edwardsburg, Michigan, which if you don't know it is the center of the universe, we have an open lot back there, and my neighbor owns the lot, so he allows me to go back there at night and sit at my telescope. And one night these thin clouds started coming in. So I sat in my chair for a while. I said, I'll just see if they pass. If not, I'll pack up and go inside. And if it clears up, I'll stay out a little bit later. I'm just sitting there listening to the radio, and all of a sudden something catches the corner of my eye, and I look, and it's this V shape, very dimly lit, and it's silent as could be, and it's just drifting in ever so slowly, getting lower and lower. And I'm looking at it, thinking, boy, people ask me all the time if I've ever seen anything strange in the sky at night, you know, UFO related. And I'm looking at it, and here's this V shape, dots of light. And I'm looking at it and looking at it and thinking, oh my God, am I actually seeing something? Pretty soon that V shape starts going honk, honk. It's some geese coming in to land, and their white bellies are reflecting the street lights. So that's mind over matter type of thing, you know, so like, you idiot. But that's my story. So, anything else? Because I know we're probably on a time limit, aren't we?
Yeah, generally an hour.
South of the equator, there's 3 times as many stars as there are north of the equator.
Oh, yeah, yeah. the
You go to
different southern
Australia, you
hemisphere.
really see them.
Yeah, I have a friend at the Michiana Astronomical Society. Michiana is sort of an aggregate of Michigan and Indiana, and that's what they call the area that we live in, the Michiana area. And he goes out to the Australian dark sky party. It's way out in the outback. He said they drive 3 hours out in the outback where there's no lights whatsoever. He says it's almost like you can just reach up and touch them. It's so beautiful. So if you ever get a chance to visit a dark sky park, do it. Lawless Park, we do have a Facebook presence. So you just have to do a search for Dr. Lawless International Dark Sky Park. Our schedule is on there. Periodically, we bring in musicians. The last people we brought in was a Native American dance troupe, and that was very popular. We had to open up alternative parking that night. And then after they performed, it was also a stargazing night, so people stayed over to see the stars. But we'd love to have you. I think it's $2 per card load to get into the park, $1 if you're a Cass County resident. But I would also suggest that you visit Headlands Dark Sky Park, which is just a few miles, west of Mackinac City. They're open 365. They don't charge anything, and they have an absolutely beautiful facility up there. And keep thinking dark skies. It's the way to go. Yes, ma'am.
Are there certain night hours that are the best for dark sky view?
Certain hours of the night?
Yeah.
Usually if you're really trying to get the best view of the night sky, you want to go at what they call astronomical twilight. And that's when the time when the sun has no more influence on the night sky. And a good benchmark for that is, let's say that the sunset is scheduled for 7 o'clock. You give yourself an hour. So 8 o'clock would be a good time to start. That way you're seeing the stars as they should be with no influence from the sun.
There's a light up in the sky that is there for this year not. You don't want to be out there when there's a full moon.
Right.
It's just true in the sky.
Yeah.
You want no moon at all.
And in Michigan, where we're located at, so close to Lake Michigan, you know, Lake Michigan is a cloud factory, especially this time of the year. And so we say it's the permacloud. And we're only open at our park right now because we're taking baby steps into being a full-time dark sky park. But we're only open on weekends of a new moon or the weekend following a new moon. And of course, most times like, okay, this weekend is it. We get to stargaze this weekend. Well, look at the weather forecast. It's going to rain, it's cloudy, and there's nothing, you have no control over that. But I know I bitch and moan to my wife and she rolls her eyes like, what are you going to do? You know, but this weekend, knock on wood, supposed to be good. So you need to check the weather forecast too. And this summer we had some really clear nights, but all that smoke from those West Coast fires kind of blotted everything out. So you have to worry about the transparency of the night sky too. Does that answer your question? Pardon?
There's a Canadian site, clear skies, that you can pick up on the internet.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you go to our Facebook page, we have those links on there. And you can click on, in matter of fact, you can click on to just punch in your zip code and it'll show you what the clear sky forecast is for your particular area.
Transparency that it's showing, darkness it's showing, clouds, it's anticipated. The Canadians are wonderful. They get services from their government that I love to have here.
Yeah, well, we don't want a fist fight to break out either. So.
It's tied into that. You can also click on a link and it will show you your.
Can I shut mine down now?
In your area. Now it'll put an X where you are and then show you where the darkness skies are, how bad.
One thing I would like to mention, I brought a bunch of pamphlets over there on that table. Please help yourself and take as many as you want. I get them free from the IDA, and so they're there for the taking. They have a lot of good information on dark skies and many of the topics they spoke about today. So that's it for me. Thank you once again. I appreciate it. And we'll be packing up and going back to the center of the universe.
I'd like to thank everyone again for attending today. I think you have seen some evaluations floating around. If you would just be kind enough to fill those out so we can have some guidance on future topics, and also just to let us know how we did at this brown bag lunch. I also wanted to mention one thing in closing. As some of you know, the county is currently undergoing a broadband speed study to aid our broadband initiative. So if you go to our county website, on the homepage there, you'll see a link to click on an internet speed test. So if you have the opportunity, please visit our county website, click on that link and take the speed test, so it will further aid our broadband initiatives throughout Livingston County as well. So if there's anything else, if there isn't anything else, I appreciate everyone for coming out today. And again, we appreciate Osceola Township for being our host. Thanks, everyone.